All right, so you can come to work and let's build this nation. All right, so Prof, you ask a question. I'll give you a minute for you to answer. You ask a question, it's time for you to answer. Go ahead.
Yes, correct. I mean, the question we're really asking is yes, we knew the floods are coming, especially Kenya, especially Nairobi, but actually the whole country, whether you look at Nyanza, whether you look at the coast, you know, whether you look at Western, the Rift Valley and so on, we know that these places flood. We know the exact places that flood. We know why they flood. The question we're asking ourselves is, what have we proceeded to do about this? If at all, what have we done to ensure that at least we can mitigate, but secondly, to just ensure common sense safety issues?
I think that's the big question, because we've had rains before.
Correct.
And so the big question is, what have we done, or what has been done in the past to actually prevent the scenario that we are in today? Have we done anything?
Leave alone even preventing, even response.
Yes.
Even response. I mean, one of the reasons why the schools have been postponed is because people actually shelter in those places. This is generally because, yes, we can bash government, but when it comes to locating the facilities, they tend to have a lot more sense than the speculators outside there. So quite a lot of government facilities, to be fair, tend to be located in relatively safe places. And that is why people then, you know, camp in schools, you know, they camp in churches, they camp, because those tend to be better located than people living in the rivers and the floodplains and so on and so forth. But even just such a basic thing, have we prepared those government facilities to receive people who are displaced during the floods? The answer is no.
Are we futuristic?
Not even futuristic. We just talk about basic response now of human beings, you know, actually being marooned. But of course, more fundamentally, what you're asking ourselves, both for urban and rural areas, is, you know, what are we doing, you know, to respond to some of these impacts that we're talking about, to mitigate them in the first instance, so that we reduce the calamities, and also to, you know, to adapt, because in some instances there's nothing you can do in terms of these floods. So the best that sometimes we can do in a way of response is to say, okay, fine, we shall actually adapt. And let me just give an illustration. Kenyans don't know this. Nairobi has about 9 or so rivers. What you call Nairobi River is actually 9 different rivers. They hardly, in fact, they meet into the earthy system when they're getting out of the city. But as they get into the city, they're actually very different. Whether you look at, you know, Ngong River, that one that passes, you know, through Rongai and so on. Whether you look at this one that passes through Kibra, whether you look at what you call Nairobi River, with the one that passes through the museum and Grogon on that side. Whether you look at Madari River, the one that passes through Madari and you know, goes to Kiambu on the other side. You know, all these different rivers, Ruaka River, that goes through Ruai. They're different rivers, but you know what is interesting is that these rivers were dammed. They were dammed by the colonialists in as early as the 1940s.
Okay.
Yes, a number of them were actually dammed upstream. I'll give an illustration. I got baptized in Kibera Dam. That is where Nairobi Dam Estate is. There used to be a Nairobi Yacht Club there. These were dammed in colonial times, when the settlement in this city was not even that much. Why do dam a river in the first instance? Why dam a river? You dam a river to deal with floods. With the volume, is to control the volume of water passing through the river. The colonial government had enough sense to realize that the city would be flooding, and actually did create a lot of dams. In fact, if you go towards this area near Loresho, area, Lower Kabete, you see a big dam there. Those are part of dams of the Nairobi River. If you go towards Kiambu, in fact, that is partly why the Windsor area were allowed to create dams. It was to control the volumes of these particular rivers. And those dams were done in colonial times. What is the situation of those dams? Apart from a couple that are in the high-rise areas, giving Nairobi Dam, the only thing that people know is that there's an estate called Nairobi Dam.
Yeah.
And now the whole of the dam is a settlement. People are living in the dam where I got baptized. People are living there. Yeah? You know, siltation came in, hyacinth came in. Fellow said, "Oh, now it looks green. We can grab this place." And they're actually living.
So you can't trace your point of baptism.
The thing, I can't. In fact, even from a spiritual point of view. And if you just give a brief tour of that,
right.
Of the tragedy of that river.
Yes.
That river comes into Kibra. Of course, once it gets into Kibra, people live on it, so it almost disappears. The dam itself, of course, is fully settled. Then this is the same river that when we were coming to the Timol Junction, Kenyans decided to build on it. You remember, a building being pulled down there. But that's not the issue. This huge river, when it comes in, the reason why you don't see it is because there's some two stupid little culverts that purports to canalize that river where it crosses Langata Road. And it almost disappears. Yeah. It gets into Nairobi West area. People built, in fact, that entire section, people are built on top of the river. So the channels have been built there. And then it reappears a little bit in the middle of Nairobi West. Then again, people are built on top of it. Then it disappears into Mukuru. This is my issue. That if in colonial times, even without people building on the river, there was still a challenge of the river flooding. Currently, all the dams have been built on by informal settlements. The river itself, sections of the river have been built on. The river has been reduced through these stupid little culverts that have nothing to do with the capacity of the water that the river takes. Then people have built more. So there's a lot more runoff getting into the river. It requires astonishing stupidity to imagine that the river would not flood. You need to be shockingly stupid to sit there and say that all this human action that we've done overtly to reduce the capacity of that river to drain, then that in fact things will not flood. And I've just used that as an example. That is the case of all the 9 rivers passing through the city. People have built on them, and we are not even talking about pollution. Yeah, that's another matter we'll discuss another day. We are just saying the natural capacity of that, and that's our biggest drainage system in the city. The natural capacity of that system to drain is just not there at all.
I'll come back to that because urban planning is quite important in this, Prof, because when you look at the setup of Nairobi, you've actually made us look so bad. The colonial era, and now we are here. I think the Mzungu would wake up and say, these guys are just messing up the city for no reason.
But that is true. In fact, we need to call out our people. Our people are behaving like they don't have brains.
But then now that goes to the political goodwill from the political class, Katisia, and the policies that we make. Because who gives out this, authorization for you to build on a riverbed, riparian land, and et cetera, et cetera? You must be connected to get that license to build. So do we have a political goodwill to start with?
Victor, I can tell you, for avoidance of any doubt, because Professor Omenya is representing the elite, especially on that field of planning, and I will be here now to represent my fellow politicians, and especially fellow Kenyans, and say that what we are facing currently, I think as much as we talk of government responsibility, we also have individual responsibility. And politicians, Victor, and politicians are subjects of the Mwananchi.
Yes.
Yeah. So as a politician, chances are you'll do what the Mwananchi wants you to do. You are an employee.
Yes.
You are a subject. Yeah. But at the same time, as a politician, you must also offer some leadership to the people. as we talk of government responsibility, let's talk of individual responsibility.
Yes.
What are the ordinary Kenyans doing to deal with this issue? If you know for sure that there used to be a river passing through a particular area, and then you want to say that you own that particular land, and then you go to the government offices, the land offices, yeah, with the proper documentation, yeah, and you convince the government that this land should be rightfully yours. You know, Victor, Article 40 of our Constitution talks of protecting the property rights of every Kenyan. You can have a river, Professor, you can have a river passing through your land.
True.
It's allowed. You can have a river passing through your personal property. When now you want to build in that particular property, that property has a river, maybe our stream, passing through. Yeah, you can have it, and it can be, you know, of course the government will have rights over the river, but the river can be in a private property.
Yes.
Sometimes public rights and private rights to property, sometimes they merge at some point. Because if you have a mountain in your private land, then everything there is yours, but the mountain belongs to the government. So the public property rights and private property rights are merging. If now you want to build, and now this is where now, and I will take responsibility, that is where now the national and especially county governments are failing. Because, you know, if you want to build, whether it's a commercial building or a private residential building, there must be approvals, which you must get from the county government or even national government entities like the NEMA. And the professor asked a very good question. Let us not even talk about coming up with new policies, new laws. Already the policies are there.
Yes.
And we also have this information. What have we been doing with this information? That is the very good question which Professor Omenya asked. County governments must also take responsibility. Nairobi County, Machakos County, you know, and we have seen a lot of damages to property in these two counties. After all that, will it be business as usual after the rains are gone? What is the county government doing?
Yes.
Especially on the Department of Lands, Housing, and even Urban Development. Because we've asked about, you know, in very many counties, yeah, urban planning is a key department.
Right.
Because actually, in a few years to come, and maybe a professor may know, in a few years to come, many people will now be living in the urban areas. Whether it is us coming up with so many urban areas or people going to the existing ones, very many people go to the urban areas. What are we doing with the existing laws? My challenge to fellow leaders is that we need to firmly, you know, as a leader, yeah, you must give people what they need, not what they want.
Not what they want.
You know, it's like when a child asks you for maybe a razor blade, and you know very, very well that that child will hurt himself or herself, and you give them. You're not being a leader. You're being, for lack of a better word, you're actually being, you know, as politicians, we are being accused of giving people what they want, not what they need. We need to be leaders, especially, and that's why Victor, and I will want to also point out at the national level. And the reason why the framers of the Constitution insisted that the cabinet, the ministers, should be technocrats, yeah, should be professionals, is because they envisaged a situation where if we rely on the political class, and you know politicians will do what the people want. People may want bad things, but the technocrats, like a professor here, will give the correct advice to the political class.
Is your advice being taken, Prof?
And is the advice by these technocrats? That's a very good question. Are they even offering that advice in the first place? And if yes...
Exactly. Is your advice being taken on a round table? You know, during consultancies, do they listen to you people?
Leave alone my advice. You see, in Kenya, we have quite a bit of, I would say, association of professionals. We have the Architectural Association of Kenya, we have the Kenya Institute of Planners, we have the engineers, and so on. You know, these people have been reduced let me say, these associations that are the ones representing us, including the doctors, they've been reduced to a situation where they can only talk to government through the media. Yeah. And this is where all our experts are in, including those ones who are in government. Yeah. So even common sense issues, like during this time, we're saying, okay, fine. I mean, is it possible, for example, for planners to give a to-do list, you know, in terms of disaster preparedness? Yes, they can, and they do. But of course, nobody listens to them. We come and speak in the media and hope that somebody, you know, somebody listens. At least occasionally there's an opportunity, but you really have no idea whether these are being taken on board. I did actually, to be fair to government, once in a while they call professionals. I don't know why, but once in a blue while, I did actually address cabinet and the president in December last year. And one of the things that they had wanted me to talk about some things, but there are also some things I wanted them to hear. One of the things that I told the president, the deputy president, the entire cabinet, plus his advisors there, was that we need to go back to Kibaki and Kibaki plans. And I highlighted those plans. We had a national spatial land use plan developed in Kibaki's time. It still exists today. Nobody worries about it. Because I was telling them that it is important that we think about every square inch of this country. Currently, I know our discussion is biased a little bit towards urban. However, these challenges we're talking about, whether they're the challenges of floods, we've seen tourists being marooned in the Mara. Yes. Actually, there's an evacuation happening right now. We have seen Kisumu, Ahero, Nyandu plains. People actually, you know, being flooded in those places. Those are rural places. We have seen, you know, people in Tana River. In Tana River. Yes. You know, actually being flooded. We've seen animals, you know, being swept. And what I was saying was that you see, we need, from a planning perspective, we need to look at everything. We need to look at the whole of our country. And the good thing is that we have, we actually do have that plan. We just need to go back to it. So what can we do? Because when you talk about rural area of Ahero, yes, what can be done? Because those people you see, from planning, and it's linked with policy, the way planning is done is, you know, planning is almost a policy document, as it actually were, including land use planning. Typically what happens is that you are saying this particular place is suitable for this particular use. And it is unsuitable for this particular use. A good example is to say this place is actually good for agriculture. If you look at, say, the Yala Swamp area. Yes. The Yala Swamp is excellent for particular type of agriculture, rice and so on. But it is totally unsuitable for settlement. If you look at the Nyando side, same thing. If you look at the Tana side, in fact, incidentally, in terms of our pick and choose government, we decided that some of those areas will actually use them, you know, to prop up our agricultural production, sugar and so on. So this is the point, that planning is a rational exercise where we come and say, this place naturally behaves like this. Therefore, this is the most suitable land use, including leaving the land untouched. That's land use. Yes. Where we're saying this place is for wildlife, where we're saying this place is for cleaning the river and so on. And then, of course, through that, we will be saying these are the ideal places for planning. I mean, for human occupation. So I said, look here, we need to actually go back and ensure that every single inch of this country is planned. Number two, from that national plan, we have the county spatial plans. That's where the county governments now come in. That breaks the national plan into 47 different plans. And then they're able to go deeper, picking the ethos in that national plan, saying the national plan says this place is a park. Now as a county, what are the details of this particular park? And so on. And then we bring those plans all the way to urban area plans, not rural plans, and so on, and then to sector plans, because you'll be having plans for roads, you'll be having plans for drainage, as we're talking about, and other infrastructure plans. But the issue is not whether we have the plans or not. The issue is fidelity to plans. To saying what do these plans that we have say, and how can we use them? How can we use them to reduce our vulnerability, and of course on the other side to totally increase our productivity and our well-being.
Yeah.
But what we are seeing is a situation where there's absolutely no reference to any plan. We have regional plans. We have plans for these riparian areas and riparian wayleaves being done by different agencies and so on. And believe it or not, the law in Kenya is so specific about planning.
Yes.
It says that all plans must be integrated and must be GIS based. That is the law. That's the constitution of Kenya, of the Republic of Kenya. That's how progressive it is. There's a point that it was envisaged that, you didn't want a situation where good things in one plan would actually be subverted by another plan.
Yes.
That is partly why the plans had to be integrated. But Victor, what you're talking about here, number one is the plans. But the second bit of it is that we need to actually implement those plans, or at least ensure that the ethos that are in those plans are not violated. And I'm telling you, the violation is everywhere. You move around this country, people are built on rivers. Even in I come from Nyanza, I come from the lake. The only thing that's helping us a little bit with enforcement is nature. This guy went and put an entire entertainment place on Lake Victoria, and Kenyans were very happy. They were very, very happy, going there to dance on the lake until the lake remembered and came back and actually washed away everything. And the fellow was crying that his investments had been washed away. In fact, it is nature that is saving us, incidentally. This one that's washing people away, it is the one that's saving us. That is the only semblance of enforcement. Yes. We're saying, you shouldn't have built that in the first instance. What were you doing there? Okay. The river comes and washes people away. That's the only time we start crying.
You know what, Prof? Katisia, we've been lectured here. Prof is literally, we've been lectured. It's about implementation. The law, as you correctly put it as Wakil, the law is very clear. Yes. But the implementation bit of it is now what's lacking. Yes. And nature, at some point, the way Prof is saying, is coming back to call it its rightful place. So the implementation bit of it, what makes it so hard for us to implement? Is it so painful? Is it so bitter to swallow these implementations? Or where do we miss that mark, so to speak?
Thank you, Victor, and also I must thank Professor for the lecture. As a leader, I must also learn on behalf of my people, because when I go down there in Kitui County, I will properly enlighten them on these matters. Victor, what I can say is that I agree fully with the good professor, Professor Omenya, on the fact that we have so many laws, so many policies on how to plan for our properties, how to plan for our development in the cities, in the rural areas. It's a matter of implementation, I agree. And the real responsibility lies with the people and also with the government. When I was growing up, Victor, I was being told that everywhere, where we have rivers currently, Professor, is where people used to pass. Maybe with their livestock, with cows, cows with their hooves, when they pass there, they'll create like a stream. Yeah. So what am I saying? That everywhere, every surface is a potential river.
Correct.
Is a potential stream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Already we have existing streams, we have existing rivers, but everywhere you go, that's a potential river. Because when we develop land, and we fail to come up with proper drainage system, because if it rains and that water maybe from the roof goes down, it will create. It has to look for a way of going elsewhere, and it may create a potential stream which may now later become a river.
Correct.
And if you look at the Nairobi, for example, around every estate, there is like a stream somewhere where people direct the sewage or the roof water. Yeah, there is like a stream somewhere. So as we want to plan for the future rivers and future streams, we must also deal with the current. How are we stopping or how are we controlling this drainage issue? Because in my opinion, it's a drainage issue, especially in urban areas. How do we control this drainage which comes from the houses in that particular area? Yeah. When we come to now the existing rivers, and Victor, sometimes I teach property law, yeah, and you know, there's what we call a compulsory acquisition of land.
Correct.
If my simple advice to the government would be, wherever you see, and you know there's this famous riparian land issue, where Taj Mahal was demolished and other buildings were demolished, and the government acquired that land compulsorily.
Oh, okay.
We already have the law in Kenya, the Land Acquisition Act, of which has been revised in 2010, which now tries to guide on how a private land, which the government for some reasons needs to acquire, either to protect the lives of the people, or even protect the animal life. No, Victor, let us not focus too much on the human. We forget we have the animals, we have the plants, the snakes which have been swept away at...
let's take a break.
Yes, yes.
You know, we talk about the snakes and all that.
Yes.
I don't know if it's true that the reptiles at the Nairobi River are just having a tour in the city. I have no idea. I must be very much afraid. Yes, I come from the lake, but there's some things you don't joke with. Oh, yes. You'll agree with me?
Oh, yes. No, definitely.
Exactly.
Crocodiles and those are the reptiles.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a break.
You take off.
We'll be right back with more. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. So we, Katisa, we need to pay school fees.
Yes, we need to
pay for school fees for the prof, because this lecture cannot
go.
That
is true. That is true.
Yes, we have to pay for it.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway. Okay, so let's talk. You are making your submission.
I was making my submission.
Go ahead.
And very humble submission. As a professional, apart from being a politician, I'm also a professional, and actually this is an area which I have a lot of interest in, the area on property rights. Yeah, and sometimes I teach on property law, and this is an area, you know, a professor has spoken about land planning. There's also what we call the land use.
Correct.
Yeah, how do you use the land?
Correct.
The economic use, the agricultural use, and actually when we were in the commercial break, Professor was sharing with me that you may have a big area of land, and if you realize that some part of the land floods, or maybe is swampy, you can use it for agricultural purposes. Yeah. Not about putting a building. So what I'm saying, Victor, is that we need as Kenyans, learn on how to properly use our land. And what the national government can do, and even county governments, Victor, is that we need to talk to our people. Yeah, you know, it's a matter of culture. We need to talk to our people and let the people know the importance of not using land in an improper manner. These are issue of land use, Victor. If I may say it in a nutshell. Yeah. We are using the land for the wrong purpose. You can use that land for the right purpose, and it benefits you. Must you build that residential building by the river? Must you do that? You can farm there. Yeah, by the river you can have a very good farm. Yeah. By the river. Yeah. But because we also, our land is becoming limited, Victor, and you know, instead of us going outside the CBD, we want to be nearer the CBD. So it's a matter of now the government trying to open up. And that's why after devolution came, Victor, devolution came to open up the country. You can go to Lodwar and stay there and have an economic activity there. So as we talk of the current issues, and as we discuss about how we can effectively implement all the existing plans and policies, we need to also have a conversation with our people as a country. The national government, led by the president, needs to start this conversation. The county governments where I work, we need to have this conversation with our people on the issue of properly using our land and on the issue of always being alert for such eventualities. Because, Victor, if you stay by the river, many people actually, including myself, we like staying by the river. Yeah? maybe because you can walk short distances to fetch water. You saw what happened in Madongo area in Garissa, where the River Tana takes a corner, and it was so full it just took the shortcut.
Yeah.
And houses were swept away. So my advice to our people is that we need to properly use our land. And if the government tells you, like I saw a very elaborate circular by the Minister of Interior to all Kenyans, and trying to point out the areas which can be affected, and chances are, Victor, many people will ignore.
Yeah, true.
And say, this one will come and go.
Absolutely.
So we need to have that particular conversation with our people, because the responsibility, and I want to echo what the former President Uhuru Kenyatta used to say about insecurity. And he was saying that security begins with you. So even in matters of dealing with these disasters, it begins with us as Kenyans. Before you point out a figure at a particular leader, first of all, you are the one suffering.
Exactly.
That person may be somewhere safe, being protected by the state, or they are protecting themselves. But you are suffering, you are in the cold. If a recommend does not come with Sisi kwa Sisi and Red Cross, what will you do?
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, for lack of a better word, trying to apply some common sense.
That really connects with a gentleman called Ndungu Wainaina on X, that's on Twitter. Ndungu says that the ongoing floods have shown why county governments and the national government have require a strong supportive policy and legal framework to perform their functions. Existence of adequate resources, structures and systems, personnel with knowledge, skills and competencies, and proper financial management. Prof.
I cannot agree more, actually. I think that is that's actually very true. Remember that one of the reasons why we are actually speaking about these things and sort of putting pressure on both county and national government and other agencies is because we think they can do it. We actually think they can do it. It is not necessarily just to put them down and then we walk away. It's to say, look here, there is a way through which this can actually be done. And I like that bit where he's talking about competent people. You see, Victor, competent people are a resource. They're the primary resource, even before money comes in.
Yeah.
Because a competent person will understand the problem from first principles, and a competent person will be able to innovate, to say, okay, fine, this is the situation we are in. These are the resources that we have. How best can we use them to to avert this particular disaster or to mitigate this particular disasters? And from where we sit normally, as a sustainability expert, I also work on sustainable urban development. One of the key things that we normally start with is to say, what are the no-cost interventions that can be done? It doesn't mean that everything that we do must always have, a big financial cost. If people shifted, from one section of the land to the other, or temporarily leave their place and so on, those can be really low cost to almost no cost, sort of interventions that can be done. Regular maintenance that that is being done by cities and so on, or just a basic thing. Let me give an example. If an expert, if a planner, the climate change experts, these are the people within the county, the disaster people. If they're sitting with communities together with what do we call them? The interior people, that county, national government system in the counties.
Yes.
They're sitting with communities and saying, look here, guys, let's put our heads together. These floods are coming. We already have information from the Met. What can we do? Victor, let me say it on air. The biggest survival mechanism of the human is not money, is not roads, is not arms. It is his brain. The reason why we are here and we are so many is because we are brighter than many other animals. Once you put humans together and they willingly decide to use their brains to think about an issue, they will find a solution. They will find us a solution, Victor, I can tell you. Yes, some solutions may require a bit of money and so on. In fact, they'll put money itself as one of the problems they need to sort out.
Yeah.
To say, look here, we don't have money, but the floods are coming. What can we do? But that is what is not happening. That is what's not happening. People are not putting their heads together. The personnel we have within government are not being enabled to work or have abandoned their responsibility. This planning we are talking about, we are planners.
Yeah.
In all these, within government, we are planners within counties and so on. But you see, we have this mentality that I, Omenya, can only do something if I've got money. Remember, God may not give you money, but God has given you a brain. God has actually given you a brain. In fact, you're being employed there because you've demonstrated aptitude. And aptitude is simply use of your brain in a particular field.
Because you have money.
It's not because you have money. So this is what we are saying, that let us not behave like there's nothing we can do unless we have these huge amounts of money.
Yeah.
We mentioned the colonial government achieved quite a bit, actually, with almost no money. A lot of it was common sense issues and so on, where we're saying, look here, we're going to do a dam. Let's look at the dam scenario. We're going to do a dam. A dam is nice for recreation. We can make some little money from recreation there. A dam holds water that you can use for irrigation. So it's linked to the agriculture, aspect. A dam is also helping us, control the river. So it's linked with the disaster management and so on. So what we are saying is that let us think through these things. Let us pick up the policies. Let us say, okay, fine, this is our policies. These are our plans. This is what you are expected to do. On the other hand, let us say these are the resources that's actually available. And in that particular situation, we ask ourselves, what's the best that we can actually do with the limited resources that we actually have? The truth of the matter is that Red Cross and Red Crescent actually has less resources than county governments and national government. And we can tell what they're doing. Why? Because these conversations happen there.
Yeah.
They're saying, this is our kitty. This is the amount of money we've been able to raise. How are we going to apply it? Where are we going, to actually put our focus? And we see the impact of what they're actually able to do.
Okay.
And what you're saying is that it is possible. These things can be done at local level. They can be done at county level. They can be done at national level. We need to encourage our people to actually start taking action with the little that we have. There is no time that God will ever give you the amount of money that you want. In fact, I liked your definition between need and want. But somehow God gives you enough money for your needs. But then you see, normally the list that we generate is a list for wants. And before I close that particular conversation, when we come to some of these recurrent issues, especially when it comes to issues like flooding and these disasters and so on, of course, I've worked quite a lot in climate change. I'm the one who actually did the African Union 25-year strategy on climate change and established the unit in Addis. The plan that we had, that we developed for African Union, unfortunately it hasn't cascaded down, was a 25-year plan. And we're being asked, why do you actually do a 25-year plan? That seems to be quite long. And also, actually, as far as climate is concerned, it is not long enough. You see, Victor, if you do a drain today, most likely you are stuck with that drain for the next 50 years. If you canal a river today, most likely you are stuck with that canal for the next 100 years. If you check the dikes that were done in the Netherlands, those dikes are almost 100 years ago. They are still there serving their functions. If you check our dams, that have been done in this country. Some of those dams are already hitting their 50 years and so on. My point is that planning requires both long-term actions, because you're going to invest a lot of money. You're going to invest a lot of money, so you need to think long-term to protect your investment. The other big thing that we spoke about in terms of that African Union plan was about the need of what we're calling climate-proofing development. It is sad to see people build roads, then the whole thing is washed away, then the following year, you're building another road.
Yeah.
You're wasting resources. So how do you go about it? You need to consider a situation where the road will be washed away. So you build a road that cannot be washed away. The road that cannot be washed away will cost you a little bit more.
Yeah.
But what are you doing? You are actually climate-proofing, you're weather-proofing that road. So that road will serve you better. So yes, it will cost you double the amount of money that a cheaper road that's washable will cost you, but on the other hand, you'll only build it once.
Very good.
You will not be building a road every year. So, as we are talking, we need to think, have we weather-proofed, have we climate-proofed our agriculture? Have we climate-proofed our settlements? It simply means that we don't want settlements that be washed away. Have we climate-proofed our tourism? Have we climate-proofed our transport? And on that note, let's look at SGR versus our roads here including the expressway. Did you hear that the SGR stopped functioning because of flooding? No. That and you can see when the SGR is passing by his place there and is passing by Ukambani, the SGR is passing like 6 stories up there. These guys designed that infrastructure with a worst case scenario. The SGR is an example of an infrastructure that has been climate-proofed. That has been weather-proofed.
And the big question is, have we climate-proofed even our classrooms of schools as we speak, currently speaking?
Yeah.
I mean,
so we need to think about some of these
Exactly.
things. Yeah.
Katisia, when we talk about climate-proofing, and he's correctly put it, there is that element of now coming together as a community, being futuristic. When you look at the whole design of this city, for example, this city was designed years and years ago when the population was less than 1 million people.
Correct.
But right now, as we speak, during the day, the number goes to around 3 million, around 5 million right now. And during the day, at night, it goes to 3. Look at that. How can we as a nation, now, generally speaking, how can we as a nation come together and say, with Prof around here, we've done mapping across the country. Tana River is affected here. When you go to Yala Swamp, when you go to Ahero Nyando, when you come to Nairobi, when you do a mapping of the entire country, inch by inch. So how can we as a nation say, moving forward, in the next 20, 30, 40, or even 50 years to come, we're not going to have such kind of problems. What do we need to do before we get it from Prof?
Yes. Thank you very much, Victor, and indeed, Prof, thank you. What we are lacking as leaders, because we are the ones who actually mostly implement all these policies or these plans. Before even an individual citizen can put up a building, there must be approvals from the county leadership and also the national leadership. What I can ask fellow leaders is that let us not now focus on the past. If we now focus on the present and the future, as you are saying, Victor, we now plan for the future. Let us deal with the current issues which we are having and now plan for the future. And when the professor was mentioning about climate proofing development, I was thinking about what we do at the county level on what we call the county roads, where we do grading of the roads every time after it rains. We use millions to grade our roads every time it rains. If that money is accumulated for maybe 10 years of devolution so far, I'm sure it would have done a very good road, a tarmac road, which would be usable up to now. What happens also in development, and thank you for those key words on climate proofing development. You see that where a road is passing, instead of putting a bridge so as to minimize on the cost, save the cost, they put a culvert. So you are narrowing down the river. And you wonder, what now? The water will come on top, or even destroy the part of the road which has no culvert, and the road will get damaged. So I think as leaders, we have to make sure that the already existing policies, Victor, let us not talk of coming up with new policies or plans. Maybe we can amend a few, or improve on them, depending on the current situation. Because sometimes, you have to amend a policy or a law to suit a particular situation. But we have to make sure that we fully implement. That implementation lies on the leadership of this country, both at the county level and at the national level. And then now, if we are pumping budget, because when I talked about what we have to differentiate on what the people need and what they want. Yeah, even in the Bible, Victor, human beings we are naturally defiant. If we defied God's laws, what about national laws? We can easily defy them. Yeah, so I think it's a matter of the leadership of this country, and I like the spirit in which the president of Kenya, so far, the spirit which he has. As leaders, we must avoid being popularist or populist. You must give the people what they need. You must do the correct thing. Sometimes people may say you are a bad leader, you are a bad person. They will never say you are a bad leader, they'll say you are a bad person. Yeah. Because they know, deep inside their minds, they know you are telling them the right thing and you are doing the right thing. So it's a matter of us as the leadership being firm. And if the cabinet secretaries, they're supposed to be, even if somebody has a political background, because nothing stops a politician from being a cabinet secretary or from being a technocrat. I am a lawyer, but I'm also a politician. If a cabinet secretary or a PS or a government officer is in a particular department, they must do the correct thing. Exactly. If it's a matter of planning, Victor, you can easily say, no, this building, I disapprove it. But Victor, you find out that many of these developments in dangerous areas, if you follow their routes, maybe there's a politician behind. You are told we can't destroy this building because so-and-so, the family of so-and-so, and that building is by the river. And because you can't destroy that building, other people will come there and claim that, you allowed this person to build here, we can also build, and that will continue on like that. So I think it's a matter of us being firm as a government, very firm, and also our people will understand. When you are very firm, Victor, to your child, as they grow up, they will later appreciate, my father, my mother was very firm, that's why I've been able to achieve this. So I think if you look at, and I think when the president there's a time he was issuing his speech and he compared us to, I think he mentioned some countries like Singapore. And there's a very famous Prime Minister of Singapore who was extremely firm and tough. Exactly. Go there, all right, Victor. You'll see that the rivers are there. Sometimes, Victor, in those developed countries, you'll see a river which is beneath a building. Because the river must have its way. That is nature, as what Professor was saying, nature must have its way. It's upon us to live with nature. Exactly. You can't fight nature. Exactly. Yes, Prof.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I totally agree that we need to, we need to work, and we also need to look at these things as integrated. Yeah, I think part of the issue that we have is, I would call it an issue of selfishness that is very strange, where, Victor, all these developers, yourselves and so on, a lot of Nairobians, if you ask them that, where does your sewer go? It goes to the manhole outside my place. Eventually, where does it go? Many don't even know where the sewer works for these cities. If you ask the person that the water running on your whatever, this water that you use for washing your car, where does it go? Many people are actually not bothered. So you see, but if you look at it, partly how nature works, I mean, and it's so simple. Nature works in an integrated way. If you use that same river system, you find that water comes from those rivulets plus walkways, up and down, whatever. Then they join these smaller rivulets, then they connect with tributaries and so on. In fact, many Nairobians don't even know that their waste end up in Indian Ocean through the Athi River system. That's where it goes. After waste has been treated in Nairobi, it's pumped into the Athi River, into the Tana Athi system, and the Tana Athi meet, up there, to the ocean. So the first thing with these sort of flooding situations and so on is always to look at things as being integrated, because otherwise, if you block part of that system, you're choking the system. It will cause problems. Yes. I always use the heart and the capillaries. You can't say that no. The heart will continue pumping and blood will continue moving, despite the fact that I've blocked this particular capillary on my hand, or I've cut the one on my leg. If you cut that one, it affects the whole system. If you have a clot in one section, it affects the whole system. So we need to look at this thing as a complete system. We did design, in fact, I was part of the team that designed, we call it MOS, the Metropolitan Open Space System for Johannesburg. And Johannesburg is actually a shockingly flat place, very, very flat, way more flat than Nairobi here, or even Cape Town. But Johannesburg hardly floods. But it's because, you know, Johannesburg had a system, and of course we came back and reworked it, that looks at every single space in Johannesburg and how that water gets out of the city. From your house to the city, from every road to the city. It's called MOS, the Johannesburg Metropolitan Open Space System. But you see, here we are, that we can't even account for water in a neighborhood, leave alone a whole city. And I'll go back to, Victor, to what I was talking about there in terms of that national framework. Yeah, because when you look at this disaster at national level, it is a situation that can only be dealt with at that level. But remember also that another disaster will be coming. Now, the disaster that will be coming from lack of rain. This is how stupid we are. That now we are crying because of floods that we are being washed.
It's a sad reality.
And I'm telling you, in 6 months, we'll be crying because there's no water. Because there's no water. The amount of water that fell on one of these days is enough to keep the nation for a year.
Yeah.
But the bigger point I wanted to say was that, you see, Kenya is God loved us. I mean, is an endowed place. I've traveled in every single part of this country. Believe it or not, Mandera, River Dawa, up there. River Dawa is able to feed the nation, leave alone just northeastern. And it's a huge river. Now I know it's full. In fact, it's normally full about, you know, between 6 to 9 months in the course of the year. And those are desert areas. What are we doing with the water from that river? You see, this whole idea of damming, linking that with agricultural production, linking that with recreation and so on. We can talk about all our rivers. We can talk about Tana River, Tana Athi system, and the way people are being flooded in Tana River. Yet that is our biggest agricultural potential, again, on account of that river. Whether we're looking at the Mwea system, that again is on the Tana Athi system. That's our biggest rice producer in this country. Whether we're looking at River Nyando, itself, that passes through Ahera and washes all the Luos in Kisumu. That is also a rice production area. Whether we're looking at River Nzoia and Yala. These rivers, they do many things for us. They drain, they do many things. Of course, sometimes they've got too much water. Whether we look at River Takwel, up north. So there's hardly any part of this country that doesn't have a major river system. But the key question is that, what are we doing with it? And some of them, to be fair, government had thought about damming. Because from here we can get electricity. From here we can actually get our agricultural produce and so on. And at the same time, tame the river so that it doesn't flood us. That's why I was saying that we need to look at this thing nationally. We don't need to just look at, there's a saying outside there, that never allow a disaster to go to waste. So we need to be thinking that, yes, how do we deal with this disaster in the future
and make it
and make the best out of this huge water that we're talking about as a nation.
Thank you so much.
This can only happen through a conversation between national and county.
That is Professor Alfred Omenya. Gentlemen, we just have to leave it at that particular point. I'm so sad that we just have to leave it here. But, you know, somebody's asking me, today is iron politics. Everything is politics. Everything is politics. We don't have to talk about Azimio and Kenya Kwanza in, you know, on iron politics. This is politics itself. We talk about matters that really is going to mold us and what's going to help us out there. Many people have lost their lives, and we just hope that it's not going to continue or even to rise, even as the rains continue to pound us. That is Kevin Katisa, who is an advocate of the High Court. He's also the Speaker of the County Assembly of the great county of Kitui. Asante sana for joining us, as well as Professor Alfred Omenya, who is a principal researcher, as well as environmental architect, helping us to crunch those numbers and the figures that we need and get the sense out of it. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Before we go, someone is, just a quick feedback. Cheruiyot, Mari Cheruiyot says that he's watching from Nyamira border and Kericho County, that way. Samson Ongaga saying that he's watching from Osieko Beach.
That is my place.
Osieko Beach is deep down in between some, down there.
That is where Uganda.
And Katisia, that is Jeff Muli. Jeff Muli saying that congratulations, Honorable Speaker, watching from Seikuru.
Oh, okay.
All right.
That's where I come from.
You see. Gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I'm Victor Law. Let's stay safe and please, let's be safe. Don't cross that river if you don't have to. All right? Good morning. Have a good day.